Hi, I'm Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans. 30% of Americans who are planning home improvements of $5,000 or more will pay for those renovations with a high-interest credit card. That may not be a great idea. A better idea may be to take cash out of your home with a Quicken Loans 30-year fixed-rate mortgage. The rate today on our 30-year fixed-rate mortgage is 4.5%, APR 4.78%. Call us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com.
Rate subject to change. Pay 2% fee to receive this discounted rate. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. License in all 50 states. NMLS number 3030.
TV party tonight! TV party tonight! TV party tonight! TV party tonight! We're gonna have a TV party tonight! Alright! We're gonna have a TV party, alright! Tonight! We've got nothing better to do than watch TV and have a couple of brews. Everybody's gonna hang out here tonight! Alright! We'll pass out on the couch! Alright! Tonight! We got nothing better to do than watch TV and have a couple of brews. Don't talk about anything else. We don't wanna know. We're dedicated to our favorite shows.
And tonight, our favorite show is The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. Tonight, we'll be discussing what is known as Part 2 of what I assume was a full season cut in half, brought to you by the good people at the CW, Greg Berlanti, and Netflix. I, of course, am your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. And joining me as she did when we looked at Part 1 of The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, ladies and gentlemen, from Honeysuckle Rose Creations, and doing double duty tonight, as this is her second podcast with me, because she's a glutton for punishment, ladies and gentlemen, Alexis Haina. How do you do, madam?
Hail Satan.
Indeed. We are here to discuss the dual nature of humanity and witch. That's what this is all about. Actually, we're here to talk about how terrible men are. Men stink on ice, don't they? That's what we learned about this season.
Not men stink on ice, just misogynist assholes stink on ice.
Indeed, indeed. All right, enough silliness. Let's get right down to it. So, when we last left our fair Sabrina, she had signed her name in the book of the, what was the book of the devil? The book of the beast?
Book of the Beast, yeah.
Book of the Beast, yeah. She signed her name in the book of the beast, and she had turned away from her human side. She fully embraced the witch within, and the expectations were, okay, well, let's see where this is going. Does she go full on evil? Does she ascend to what our villain in this, who is the devil, who is Satan, Lucifer, all of those things and maybe more. Is the object here is to groom her so that she becomes the bride of Satan. Does she do it? That's what we're going to talk about. Before all that, though, there was a Midwinter's Tale, Chapter 11. What did you think of the Midwinter's Tale episode?
First of all, did you just activate Siri again in the background?
I don't know how. I don't know how we went from a Midwinter's Tale to that.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is not the first time he's questioned me on the show, and Siri thought he was talking to him, because you'd think by now Mark would learn to unplug his Amazon Echo before we start recording.
I'm not doing... I've never done it before, and I ain't starting now, goddammit.
Okay, now for the record, I actually liked the whole that little Christmas short. I like it when series do a little mini snippet, just one little extra episode between the series like that for a special occasion. I just think it's a really good sign of clever planning and programming,
Mm-hmm. I thought it was
like it doesn't necessarily fit into the main season, but it's a nice little way, to get them interested, to wet the whistle, to say, hey, we're still thinking about this, and here's a fun little taste before we start the next season.
Yeah, I always enjoy a good Christmas episode. We've talked about some of the animated shorts. They've done that with Toy Story, where during the holiday they would do just a special holiday short or episode or whatever. Those are fun, and this one was pretty good. This one, Sabrina gets to reconnect with her mother. They do a bit with a wood witch, I think is what she's called. It was very much in the spirit of the show, but had its own little Christmassy element to it. It was fun. I don't know how much it added necessarily to the overall narrative, because I think at the end of it, Zelda still has Letitia. I don't think she gives her up until an episode or two into part 2. So, like I said, as far as and the other big narrative of this is Sabrina learning about the machinations of her father and what her past truly is and what she's meant to be. And I don't know if any of what happens with her mom really added to that or not. I don't remember.
I did kind of like also the inclusion of Susie, who is no longer known as Susie in season 2. Well, we'll get to that. Getting kidnapped and potentially being turned into a wax sculpture. I guess I kind of like that they're working really hard to make sure that the human world and the witch world are not totally parallel to one another. These things can bleed over into one another, and I like that.
I'm not a huge fan of horror, but I think the show is lost without its horror elements. I mean, that's kind of what brings people to the dance, right, Eddie?
Hang on, I better go see what they're barking at. It's probably just the neighbors. Sorry, folks.
We're back. We had a momentary dog interruption there, but we're all good in the hood now. Anyway, we were talking about Susie, who will become Theo in a few short episodes. And what I liked about this episode and her part of it was that she was the victim of a horror plot. You had a demon who, I believe it was a demon, who was turning volunteers who worked for quote unquote Santa into wax figures, and
essentially feeding off of their souls. That is a genuinely terrifying plot. That was legit scary.
Yeah, when she sees the first wax doll crying, and you realize what's happening there, like, wow. I mean, like, hearing the story about the witch eating her children, meh. Not particularly moved. Watching the possibility of her being turned into a wax doll, yeah, that was terrifying. And I really, like I said, I think the show is lost without its horror element, and some episodes are better than others about maintaining that. I thought that actually the first part of the season did a better job of presenting some really gruesome scenes. This season, I don't know, not so much. I think they were so caught up in dealing with Blackwood and his attempt to turn the Church of Satan back 100,000 years, that I feel like they didn't do as much pure horror as they did with the first part.
It depends if you count that scene where Lilith is forced to eat her fiance's head. That's truly scary.
I get where they were going with that, and I think the attempt was made, and it was a good attempt, but I looked at that and I went, and I kind of, first of all, Satan himself looks like Beta Ray Bill. I was just I don't know. I don't particularly, when the Dark Lord shows up, it looks a little hokey to me. I feel like he needed to be more gross. And so when old Horseface is sitting there, and he pulls the lid off, and there's the head. I'm just like, clearly the budget did not. There was not a tremendous amount of special effects budget in this scene.
You just had to go for the Beta Ray Bill reference and make the Thor Ragnarok fans cry even more, didn't you?
I certainly did, Ollie.
I was fine with the design, personally. I mean, I've seen designs. Okay, can we just all agree at least he didn't look like Spawn from the live-action Spawn movie from the 90s?
I'll give you that. It was better than anything in the Spawn movie. Though I'll tell you what, the Spawn HBO cartoon series was truly terrifying.
That it was, not to mention there is only one true voice of Spawn, and that is Keith David.
No argument there. So, anything else about the Christmas episode? If not, let's talk about the part 2 writ large here. There's no chapter synopsis. I'm going to handle this kind of the way I handled the Orville last night with Jesse. Let's talk about some of the plot lines and some of the character relations. And let's actually start with let's start with Susie / Theo, because that of all the things that's really stood out to me in this, because we're going to dedicate a large part of the podcast talking about Blackwood, since he's the major villain of part 2. But I wanted to make sure Susie got a good mention here, because I know it's 2019, and and to recognize these things is to be good in the world. But I have to say, I thought they did a really great job with handling a transgender character without giving her too much or too little, or making her, a sympathy case. I thought they maintained the fact that she seemed like a real person, and that there was, I didn't feel like it was preachy in any way. I felt like here is a character who's separate from all of these other issues going on in this town with the supernatural, is struggling with her identity, and she comes out. They show the bullying, they show all the things that go along with this sort of thing, and then she comes out, she starts to embrace the fact that she feels like she's always been a boy, and she is a boy in her in her mind, whether or not physically the properties are there, and just like how well her friends treat her, and even the bully after falling, magically falling down a flight of stairs, just says, I've had enough, I don't want to be a jackass anymore. I thought it was all handled pretty well. What did you think of the Susie plotline?
I did really like that. I'm trying to remember when we reviewed season 1. I think we were discussing whether or not we felt that this character of Susie was supposed to be transgender, lesbian, or gender blind. Because there is quite a difference between that. And this season they cleared up she is transgender. And I do like that they handled it. I mean, there was a little bit of a shock for it. I like that she goes to her father. Well, he goes to his father, sorry. And he's a little caught off guard, but when he says, can you take me to go get a boy's haircut, he doesn't freak out about it. He says, if that's what you want, then yes, and he takes her. And there's a couple of little parts where somebody says Theo, and Theo says it's okay, it's going to take a little time to get used to, which it does.
Right. I think the problem is when you're shrieking, harpy of a person, regardless of whatever your issue that you're trying to try. I'm gonna not mention who in this. We're gonna do a podcast where who doesn't come up. But if you've got an issue and you're handling it appropriately, I think you don't necessarily elicit sympathy, but people will understand you and will seek to We'll seek to accept you the way that you are and the way that you want to be accepted. I think the problem that we tend to run into is that when you have a character who is trumpeting it and going being over the top with it, you tend to lose your audience, because now you're not. It isn't even the issue at hand. You're just not acting like a normal person. You're being a. Trying to figure out the right word for this. You're acting like an asshole.
Yeah, I was going to say a pain in the ass.
Yeah, perfect.
No, I agree. Well, there is the fact. I'm not going to say that, transgender people don't deserve to come out and, really speak their mind. They do. Yes, thank you for the squeaky toy, Eddie. But I do appreciate that they did not hammer it in. I do care about this character, and I want him to be happy, but at the same time, I am watching The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina to watch these characters on a whole. I do not want every time we cut to Theo for suddenly to be someone standing on a soapbox.
I don't know if you watch Supergirl at all, but there's a character, the character of Dreamer was a transgender male to female. It got mentioned once, and the character of Supergirl, Kara Danvers, was like, thank you for telling me that. It doesn't get brought up again. It's and I remember, and I bring it up because I remember the reaction, online to it was, a half and half of, oh my God, the first transgender superhero ever, what a triumph for these kinds of people. and like the other half was it's a travesty. Well, God damn it, superheroes should be men and should be women with big boob. It was like, come on, stop tearing down my childhood. That sort of thing. And I watched it and I was like, it was handled fine. These two characters grew. They were on a trip together. I think Kara had needed to get out of whatever the hell shitty city she lives in, and so she went home with this one character to meet her family. And it's after having grown close, she shares this part of her past with her, and it's acknowledged, and they move on. I'm like, that's perfect, and I don't disagree with you. I think if somebody is really struggling, and then there's this change, and they want to have a recognition of that change be celebrated, good on you. Go for it. But we all have to move on with our lives. We cannot be doing this every single day, I think is more my point.
Yeah, agree. I mean, I have a very good friend whose child came out as transgender, and I remember how when the first time I heard about it, we were all getting together for drinks and dinner and stuff, and I just leaned in and I said, okay, so just so I'm on the same, before I say something stupid, your kid is now identifying as a female, right? And she goes, and she nods, she goes, yeah. I'm like, okay, good to know. And we moved on. Yep. It's like I just want to make sure before I say anything stupid, make sure we're all on the same page. Okay, moving on.
Yeah. And so, and again, it's not really even made a big deal of in the series. It's acknowledged. They spend, an episode or two dealing with it, different reactions, the bullying or whatever. And then it's like, okay, this is now just accepted. And she's Theo, and I actually forgot she had been a girl. By the end of the series, he was Theo, and Theo was a character in the show, and Theo shows some pretty badass moments towards the end, especially when they're all standing outside the gates of hell, and she's got what looked like Stark Tech. What the hell gun was that?
I have absolutely no idea.
I wasn't sure if it was a gun or they were catching ghosts. I'm not, I honestly didn't know. But she's got some sort of magic boomstick that she's pointing at the gates of hell. And I was like, all right, go Theo. All right.
I would say the most they really give Theo as far as any other story is the one anthology episode.
Right.
Where we get the fortune teller, who is, of course, Lilith in disguise. But even then, you could argue, because what Theo wants is a stronger body, so he can be a better athlete. And I know a lot of people are saying he wants a full male body, but I looked at it and it's like you realize you never actually see really much of Theo's chest, and you obviously don't see anything below the waist. So I looked as like maybe it was just wanted stronger muscles and a stronger body. There was no clear saying I need a male body, just I want a strong body.
Right.
So.
Yep.
Again, handled very well.
All right. Let's talk about the major plot line of this thing, the major narrative, which is Father Blackwood raising up the males of the Church of Satan, pushing a misogyny agenda, which at first looks like he's just got it in for Sabrina, but you realize he's this way with all women, and he's particularly against Sabrina just because there's a recognition. We have early on, we have the demon saying she must not ascend, and you never hear what she's supposed to ascend to, and he doesn't know about the Dark Lord's agenda and all of that. So that's really the thing that informs the entire season. Very different from the first one. The first one dealt with her trying to do that work-life balance thing. No, that witch mortal balance, and finally, because of the falling out with Harvey and just the way things went down, and and the manipulations of Miss Wardwell, otherwise known as, what was it, Madam something or other,
Madam Satan.
Madam Satan.
Yeah, isn't it? That is Lilith, isn't it? Isn't that her name?
We discovered this season that's actually Lilith. But in the first
Mother of Monsters.
But the first part of it, she was just recognized as Madam Satan. So, with a combination of necessity and manipulation and just plain old good old-fashioned bad luck, she ends up embracing purely her witch side, which they didn't really do a lot with. she has the one episode where the Dark Lords like steal a pack of gum, and at the end of it, she kind of winks at the camera and takes the gum. The rest of the thing, she's as goody two shoes as she was from the very start of this thing. And if anyone's a social justice warrior, it's her. And I don't necessarily mean that in a bad way, but she runs for top boy just because she feels like, the gender imbalance is inappropriate and she's going to do something about it. I don't necessarily feel preached to, but I can see where a lot of people who have come on my network who have had an issue with this sort of thing would have been thoroughly disgusted.
Well, I feel that this season was more about Sabrina maybe not embracing her witchiness, but exploring her witchiness. The first season, she was trying so hard to balance it, and we saw a lot of her just flat out disgust with the way things were. Let's go back and talk about the cannibalism episode again if we have to.
Yeah.
I think this was more her exploring, basically saying, okay, I've signed my name in the Book of the Beast. I'm going to, the magic school for full time. Let's go ahead and see what we can do here. Not to mention, she's broken up with Harvey, and we also get her starting her relationship with Nicholas Scratch. And for the record, if anybody actually didn't see it coming about the twist in the end, where he had actually been doing a few things for the Dark Lord, for the love of God, go back to 9th grade English.
It isn't so much that I didn't see it coming as it still just broke my heart. I was like, oh, poor girl.
Yeah, I did like Nick Scratch. He was a very good character, and he is redeemed. Hopefully, yes. At the end. I have been hearing there's some people say there's more to that. We're going to find out more about his character in season 3. There's more things. There's even a rumor going around, and I really hope this isn't true, that you remember the dream scene that Sabrina has where she sees the 2 babies?
Vaguely.
One's got the goat legs and the other one's more natural. Well,
yes.
Yeah, there was talk about the Spellman family having twins. There's a rumor going around that it's going to be revealed that Nick Scratch is actually her twin brother.
Oh, boo!
Yeah. Sorry, really not up for that.
Jesus Christ. I get enough of that on Game of Thrones.
No kidding. At least thank God in the Battle of Winterfell we didn't have to listen to anyone saying, wait, you're boating your aunt? Seriously. Didn't need to hear that.
Anywho. I did that wrong. Sorry, distracted.
Okay.
So, yeah, I texted you in the middle of watching this when I think it was during the episode where where she runs for top boy, and I said, "Wow, this is very of the moment. This is very now. This feels agenda driven." I'm not saying that. Look, the show is well acted. It looks pretty good for the most part. Certain special effects scenes aside, certain character designs aside. I've already mentioned Satan looks like garbage, in my opinion. I laugh every time he came on screen.
What did you think about the image of him with his human form except for one goat leg?
I actually preferred that. I liked Lucifer walking around as mostly a man with clipped wings. Mm-hmm. And I thought they handled that well, and I thought he came across as menacing. Like when Satan's running around with the horse head, the goat head rather. I never found him menacing. I always thought he looked ridiculous, and those scenes seemed ridiculous to me. I just didn't buy it. It's one of those where I don't necessarily need him to be a cloud, but it's kind of what they say about Galactus. He looks so silly that and then when you see a real life version of him, it looks even worse because how do you work that Pope hat? It was kind of a similar thing here where I feel like you'd have been better served had he just been a bodiless voice. Had they found a way to make him menacing but not necessarily captured on camera, or maybe do a Muppet Babies where you only see his socks or something. I don't know. But
But you're going more for what they did in the Lord of the Rings animated movies with Sauron, that you never actually saw him.
Yeah.
That was the tone that they carried in his name alone that struck the fear.
Yeah, not for nothing, but even the live action, the way they do the eye, specifically in The Hobbit, I think when Gandalf realizes that the necromancer is actually Sauron, that's a frightening scene to me, and it is just
when the light comes around the shadow, and suddenly the shadow becomes the pupil. Absolutely.
Yeah, and the eye comes through the screen multiple times, and then stops. I'm like, that's really menacing. Like, that's what we needed here for Satan, not Beta Ray Bill.
I'll give you. I did like the human actor who played him. Yeah. I really like. He just has a very suave, calm demeanor about him. He just generally looks like somebody who knows exactly what's going on and has absolutely no fear of anything. And I like that. He did a really good job with the small bit that he was given. Yeah,
he embraced. I would say the guy that plays Father Blackwood. I mean, if the object is to get you to hate the character, mission accomplished.
Yeah, I'm sorry. When we see what he did to Zelda, oh my god. Yeah, he puts a spell on his wife, basically turning her into an oblivious domestic housewife who has no personality, no wants, no needs other than to serve her husband, despite the fact that I really want that cool dress she was wearing. The 1950s floral dress. That was so vintage and so cute, and I loved it.
I can't remember if it was Black Mirror or something else I've seen in the last couple of years where it was something where like all the wives were Stepford. And it was something very similar to what happened to Zelda, but it happened to an entire town. And I can't remember what this was or what the resolution was or even what show I was watching. But it felt very much like that.
But yeah, you see the look on Zelda's face right after the wedding when he tells her flat out, you have to walk behind me. You do not get to walk by my side. And she just has that look on her face like, I have just done something incredibly stupid.
Well, I wasn't particular. Miranda Otto's a fine actress. That's not the comment that I'm making here. Mm-hmm. But her character of Zelda, I kind of thought was an asshole who got what was coming to her. And when she throws off the shackles and the mind control, I'm fine with that too, because she kind of redeems herself once Sabrina tells her, "Hey, I've been manipulated this entire time, and I'm supposed to be the bride of Satan. Help!" And for once, I feel like in 2 seasons or 2 parts of 1 season, she is sympathetic towards Sabrina and not, and not seeking glory. She talks about restoring the Spellman name in the House of Spellman, and to a degree, I see where she's coming from. She has fully embraced witchery. She has fully embraced the Church of Satan. She's got a sister who got excommunicated for committing for watching a Catholic baptism. This would crack me up. She's got a nephew who was excommunicated for
trying. Ambrose wasn't excommunicated technically. He was under perpetual house arrest for trying to blow up the Vatican.
That's right. And then you have Sabrina, whose very existence, flies in the face of pure witchery because she's a half-breed. Not only is she a half-breed, but she's a loudmouth.
And she embraces her half-breed. Yeah, I have to. If I mentioned this on the previous Sabrina podcast, I am the daughter of former Catholics. Both my parents were Catholic. They left the Catholic Church because my father was married before he met my mother. He had a divorce, and they wanted to get married, and of course that is very forbidden by the Catholic Church. And obviously, I wasn't around when it happened. But I have heard so many people talk about how my grandmother and grandfather on my mother's side were livid. They did not go to my parents' wedding.
Oh, wow.
They were just so furious at my mother for leaving the church. So I can actually see a lot of where Zelda is coming from, because I look and like, that's kind of what some people in my family went through. My grandparents were very devoted to the church. Hell, my parents, they're in the Episcopal Church now, and they're very devoted to the church. So I look at her and she's like, I see where I'm not saying she's in the right, but I understand where she's coming from.
Right. And I don't think I think when they first start out, and she's just wanting to wipe the shit from the family name, that's a laudable goal. But she becomes kind of, and when she's just fucking the guy, and that's all there is, I'm like, all right, I can, listen, this is a debauched, kind of, given to your human natures type of religion and culture. I'm fine with that too. If that's what if that's the kind of thing you like, that's fine for you. It's when she becomes too obsessed with power. I feel like she crossed over there for a bit, and the whole situation where she was mind controlled by Blackwood was humbling. And I think it was a needed humbling that had to happen. Because for a while there, her character was kind of detestable. And then after the humbling, she wasn't nearly as bad anymore. Like, I didn't have such negative feelings towards her.
Well, and the fact that she's willing to keep pretending that she's under the spell so she can stay close to Blackwood and figure out what he's planning.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of redeemable characters, actually, I think the one who gets the best character arc is Prudence.
Boy. All right, let's hash this out. All right, so if Zelda drove me nuts because of all the glory seeking and whatnot, to the sacrifice of everything else, apparently, Prudence is 100 times worse. Her deep-seated need for recognition from her father, the name and everything. Though she gets one line actually to a point where I start during this period of time where I thought the character was detestable, and Sabrina's trying to get in to see Ambrose after Ambrose has been framed for killing the Pope, killing the Dark Pope, and Sabrina says, I thought we were friends, and she was like, you only ever talk to me when you need something. We were never friends. I've learned to tolerate you. That's it. And I'm like, yeah, I'm on your side on this one, Prudence. Sabrina is very self-centered. She's a likable enough character, but boy, is she flawed. Like when I think about the leads of a lot of shows, I don't know, like she's like Barry from The Flash, only not nearly as I don't know. I shouldn't say not nearly as heroic. I think if she had speech to power, she'd save plenty of people. I think the character of Sabrina, the way she's written, is good at heart, but very immature and very flawed.
She is, but the thing about Prudence that I like so much is in the first season, I'm not going to go back into that whole discussion that we had about her speaking at the same time as Dorcas and Agatha. I still can't get over that stupid name, Dorcas. I'm sorry.
Hey, Dorcas, get over here. We're going to have a Philly cheesesteak.
But she's pretty much just a bland, annoying bully. We do find out that little interesting twist about her being related to Father Blackwood, but she does get a really good arc in this. She starts seeing Ambrose in the beginning, which, again, I know a lot of people thought he was gay. He's bi or he's pan, or I don't know.
I'm going to go with pansexual.
Yeah, I apologize to those listening. I am really lousy about the definitions and the differences between bi and pan, so I am so sorry if I say it wrong. I really am.
At this point, I think of all the things said on this network, your not knowing the difference between pan and bi is the least offensive.
Yeah, that's true. Robert and Patrick aren't on the show, so...
But
sorry,
right.
It's just getting too easy to make fun of those guys.
Now we all have our opinions and disparate perspectives.
I know. I still lost my freaking bet on trying to get Robert to admit he liked something about Thor Ragnarok.
I'm going to challenge you on Prudence because she does. Where I believe you're right is she does have a good arc. The problem is where the curve in the line in the arc is. It's more of like kind of like a Nike swoosh. You know, it's a small diagonal and then a short drop. You know, not necessarily an arc, because it's only after Blackwood goes overboard that, you know, and her turn towards decency is driven out of self-preservation, not the sudden recognition that she has done bad things and needs to better herself.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, she wasn't one of the people who was poisoned at the end. It was her friends. It was Agatha and Dorcas who were poisoned. But I think it's more so the fact that you can see, I think this is a credit to the actress, that she stands by Blackwood as he's saying these horrible misogynistic things. He's talking crap on women. He's being horrible about it. But her drive to embrace, she's an orphan. You know, she didn't know until last season
a
who
gutter
her
orphan,
father.
by the way. He makes a point to call her a gutter orphan.
There you go. And to her, being related to him is everything. It's her identity. It's the first time she's had an identity separate from the other two girls. And it means so much to her. And she's hearing all these horrible things he's saying, but she's telling herself, being with my father is worth all of it. And you see it building and building until, we get to the moment where he poisons the rest of the coven, and she sees her two best friends dying, and she's like, "Screw this!"
I thought she had started to turn on him even before that. Because all right, let's backtrack here. So Lucifer comes up from hell. Mm-hmm. And he announces... Sabrina finally does the final perversion of the acts of Jesus by killing the essentially clone of herself created by a mandrake. That I think we're going to need a freaking flow chart to explain that one. That's fine. She killed herself. She created an exact physical duplicate of herself, and then she killed it, which is a perversion of self-sacrifice. Got it. Moving on. And so now, you know, and so Lucifer is able to come into the world, and he's here to claim his child bride, and that's all well and good. And so up to this point, Blackwood's like, yes, everything, yes, and then not only does he dismiss the Church of Satan and all of the changes Blackwood has made, he dismisses Blackwood himself and raises Sabrina above him. The one thing Blackwood was fighting this entire time. Like, I don't know where the drive towards misogyny came from, if it was, you know, the introduction of Sabrina into his life sort of pressing on his worst natures, or if this was just something that was always there and now was the time to let them blossom. They don't really say, and nothing's really inferred about it. But I do
think that was a little odd, because I was trying to remember in season 1. It's like, okay, we know that I always knew he hated Spellman if no other reason. She reminds him of Edward Spellman, who was his rival.
Right.
But I'm sort of going, was there anything to give a reason why he suddenly wanted to dismantle the church and make it the Church of Judas?
I can only assume it's his wife dying. That, you know, being married the first time around to a woman who held a degree of power, he can't go crazy. She kept him in check. Without that check there, he was, as Burns would say, free to wallow in his own crapulence.
Good line.
That's a great line. I pickled the figs myself. Anyway, so now that I've said that out loud, that makes a degree of sense to me. But anyway, so Satan comes in, claims his child bride, proceeds to tell him that everything that he holds dear is crap and meaningless. And I mean, it is a thing, right, to have deep-seated, all-consuming faith, and then God comes down and tells you, you don't matter and nothing you do matters. I don't care. Oh, and by the way,
for the record, I would really like it if God would actually come down and tell a handful of these people who say they do crap in His name and just pull a Woody Allen and say, you know, it's like you know nothing of my work.
Yeah, that's a bit from Family Guy. I don't know if you've seen that episode.
Oh, I know, but he stole that bit from Woody Allen.
Oh, did he? Okay, I was unaware.
You think Seth MacFarlane has an original joke in his whole body?
Touche.
I love Seth MacFarlane. I do. He is funny. He's a funny guy.
Mm-hmm.
But Family Guy does not have an original joke at all.
Fair enough. I like I said, just because I didn't get it doesn't mean it wasn't ripped off from somewhere. So that being said, though, you know, so God, who you've devoted yourself to, you know, sacrifice for, says you don't matter. It's going to change you. And so Blackwood's motivation to tear down the church and poison everybody in it actually made sense to me. It's a horrible thing, and he's a villain for doing it. But I get it. Like, I get where he's coming from. But there's a space in between. This is where I'm going with this. There's a space in between all of that before God has told him he's worthless, that Prudence has recognized, and I think it's a conversation she has with Zelda. Like, Zelda finally says to her, oh, this is after, okay, I remember what happened now. I believe Prudence turned Zelda in for hiding the baby girl, which gets her thrown out of the relationship or whatever. It gets her punished. Mm-hmm. And she says to Prudence, and she talks to Prudence, and finally, like, gets through to her how awful Blackwood is. And I think at that point, Prudence realizes that on the current path they on, with him as crazy as he is, she may have his name, but she still has no value. Like, him giving her name was a manipulation, and I think she starts to recognize that. And then he kills all of her friends. So when I say self-preservation, I think she saw where things were going and thought, there's no win here for me. There's no way I get out of this ahead. And that's when she jumps off the train.
Yeah, there's that scene where he's packing up to go, and he's basically saying that he's not going to be serving under a Spellman. And Prudence is also very devoted to her church. She is a firm believer in Satan. She's sitting there going, so essentially it's like, so God came down, told you the path we need to be on, and your instinct is to run.
Yeah.
Again, I do like it, and I really like the teaser we get at the end where she and Ambrose have teamed up. They're going to go track down Father Blackwood and make him pay, because they didn't save everyone in the coven. They saved a lot, but not everyone. Yeah, he killed a large amount of witches and warlocks.
I would say there's about as many people left in that branch of the Church of Satan as there were on the Millennium Falcon at the end of The Last Jedi.
Oh, I was about to say in proportion to the Thanos snap.
So I think with that said, I don't disagree with you. I liked her resolution. I would not give her as much credit, I think, as you were giving her. I think her turn comes directly from realizing what kind of shitstorm was being stirred up, and realize I don't want to be. I would prefer not to be buried underneath it.
Again, I guess I kind of feel that it was building for a while, and I thought you could really see that. But again, maybe I'm misreading it. Maybe that's just the way I saw the actress. But I got to tell you, speaking of, building up and stuff, here's a question. We know that Ambrose kills the Dark Pope because he was controlled by his familiar, who was given to him by Father Blackwood. Do you think Father Blackwood was planning this all along? Maybe not necessarily to kill the Dark Pope, but to have the rat, the mouse, whatever it was, take over Ambrose when you had an opportunity?
Yeah, Ambrose was akin to having a gun in your house, just hanging out in your safe in case you ever have a home invasion. And I think that's the way he looked at it. He was like, I need to have an ace in the hole. I need to have a gun in the safe, just in case. You never know if you're gonna need it, but it should be there in case you do. And I think he saw that there were going to be opportunities down the line where he was going to need to, where he was going to have need of a patsy or need of a go boy, and he figured, all right, you'll do, and if at the end I have to throw you off a cliff, well, you're a Spellman, fuck you.
That would explain why he gave him the position of top boy.
Yes.
After the whole elections and everything just kind of blew up in everyone's face.
Yes. Let's talk a little bit more about Sabrina, because I feel like we've talked about every character but her. And then we'll do sort of Burning Desires, and then we'll get on out of here since we're at for about 45 minutes. So, again, little disappointed that the narrative for Sabrina was somewhat more of the same. I mean, they end part one where she, with kind of a Mean Girls ending. She's looking all hot, hotsy-totsy, and she's embraced her witch side and all of that. And I thought, okay, well, clearly she's going to be darker, meaner, more witchy in the second half of this season and need redemption of some kind. And that doesn't happen. And again, let me give away the ending of this podcast right now. I really like Season 2. I think Season 2 is a better written season. Rather, Part 2 is a better written half than Part 1. I thought Part 1 kind of dragged a bit and was and I think I mentioned this on the podcast. It's a little too compartmentalized and a bit clunky. I really liked the way Season 2 was paced. I keep doing season. Part 2 was paced.
For the record, you can call it Season 2. That's what I've been calling it. That's what a lot of people call it. That's the way it's written in the Wikipedia and on everyone's review sites. So if you call it Season 2, for all technical purposes, it is Season 2.
It's the second half of a 20-odd episode narrative, though. And just as an aside, I love how it ends. With them deciding they're going to call themselves the Fright Club, and she's like, "Well, I have a plan. What's your plan? How about we march into hell and get my boyfriend back?"
Which will be interesting because the Dark Lord did admit there's only one thing that can kill him: the Spear of Longinus. So we're going to start this up with them. How do they get the Spear of Longinus? Because pray to God, Sabrina's not stupid enough to go to hell without that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we're gonna get a little Raiders of the Lost Ark for our money, which is fine. Whatever. Maybe they'll meet up with Dora the Explorer. We'll have a team up. Hmm?
For the record, there is an Indiana Jones 5 coming. Don't jinx us that he's going to go for the Spear of Longinus. Oh, who am I kidding? He probably is going for the Spear of Longinus.
Didn't they do this? You don't watch Legends. But I feel like they did the Spear on Legends. That was like 2 seasons ago.
Well, they also did it on that piece of crap Keanu Reeves Constantine film.
Oh, don't give it away yet. I haven't seen it, and I'm talking about it this Halloween.
It's the MacGuffin. That's all you need to know.
Moving on. So here's the wrap with this, and this is what I want your opinion on. I don't feel like there was a sufficient enough change in her character to warrant the amount of drama and effort that went into her decision to sign the Book of the Beast. I mean, that was the conclusion of Season 1. That was the denouement of her trying to reconcile her witch side with her mortal side. And then she comes out of it the same fucking person she was before that.
You know what? Yeah, I'm going to give you that. This season is not about Sabrina's growth as a character, though she does go through, learning that there is a bit of an interesting story arc with her where first of all, let's face it, the scene of her killing the 2 angels was cool as hell.
Yes.
That was awesome, with her suddenly resurrecting herself with a crown of thorns.
Yeah, I'm like, look, that was one of the best visuals of the season. It's one of the reasons I like it so much. And if I had to choose, quite frankly, I like Satan possessed Sabrina than I do any other part of Sabrina. I'm like, all right, I good for you. More of this, please. But again, the one thing she learns this season is magic can't solve magic can't solve all your problems, And the use of magic should be a choice, not fostered on somebody against their will. That's what she gets from her mortal friends. But outside of that, it's kind of what I said about Captain Marvel. She who shall not be named. It's just a big mystery. She's trying to figure out her past and what it means and everything else. And then we get to the end, and like she has a flat character growth with a bump or two here or there.
No, you're right. She does. I mean, she goes from, she gets these powers, these incredibly advanced witch powers. And I do really like the scene with it's Aunt Hilda, right? Zelda and Hilda?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, I've got a million other fandoms going through my head, and I was about to call her something else. Where she's talking about all these things that she can do without having to put together a potion or anything else. And Hilda looks at her and says, "You are racking up a cosmic level of debt." And I love that, the idea that's like, no, you don't understand. This isn't coming from nothing. I don't care what you think. You're really screwing yourself. And then it goes from her thinking that she is this great power because she is half witch, half mortal. For the record, who else here really did want her to jump off the roof and fly on a broom at the end of that one episode?
Cackling the whole way.
Yes.
And then giving Donald Duck the business.
Oh my God, that's my favorite Donald Duck cartoon.
When ghosts and goblins by the score. All right, go ahead.
Ring the bell on your front door. You better not be stingy, or your nightmares will come true. Yeah.
Boo. Woo!
I watch that every Halloween.
So do we.
But, great. Now you got me thinking of Donald Duck, and I lost my train of thought. Way to go, Mark.
That's what I'm here for. Welcome to Sidetracks R Us.
No kidding. And then she finds out, speaking of the whole incest thing on Game of Thrones, that, Satan wants her as his bride, and he's her father. Which, I'm not going to lie, that's not a bad twist, but I feel that they should have waited for that. I was like, really? You're dropping a bomb in, season 2 or the second half of the first season? That's kind of...
Yeah, unfortunately, I saw that, and my first thought was that writer was working on the script for The Last Jedi, and when he proposed who Rey's father was, they sent him out of the room. He was like, well, fuck you, I'll take my idea over to the CW then.
That's one way to look at it.
I hated that. I thought it was asinine. When the idea of her dad was this sort. I liked her dad and her mom as they were described. When she becomes the daughter of Satan and her father is basically her adopted father, I'm like, oh, fuck you. Not a great part of that. As much as I love, I want to make sure this is clear to the listeners. Season 2 is a great season, and it's better written than Season 1, but it's not perfect. And this is one of my problems with it.
Again, I don't mind the twist that she is the son of, or the daughter of Satan. I just really wish they hadn't dropped that this early.
Yeah. It was one of those, like, if you ever watch little kids play together and they were like, I have a force field. Well, I have a gun that kills force fields. Yeah, but I have a gun that kills your gun. And
I have a dinosaur that eats force fields.
Yeah. Yeah. Or the other thing I like to compare things to, Daffy Duck's Scarlet Pumpernickel. No, Daffy Duck's Scarlet Pumpernickel script. Where he doesn't have an ending.
God. Again, great cartoon.
It's like, what happens next? It's like, well, then the dam broke.
The cavalry rode to the rescue, but they were a little
too.
Seriously, don't test me. Okay, you know that I am the go-to cartoon reference person for this network.
Yes.
I could probably recite like 100 episodes of Looney Tunes from memory, and Scarlet Pumpernickel's one of them.
I have one of the tropes on Damn You Hollywood that Robert and I, we have suddenly Zemo, more dinosaurs, but then the dam broke, which which is my way of saying like they really like just added. They gave her way too much. They added way too much. It wasn't necessary for her to be. And among all, she's fucking she's Anakin Skywalker, Jesus, and now the son of Satan too. What the fuck else isn't she? Like I often do the other joke from Tiny Toons. The last of the Red Hot Tabletop Clockers is from the Bat Duck episode from Tiny Toons, and that's yet another thing I kind of use to illustrate. You've given a character way too much, and this last thing is overboard. She doesn't need to be on top of everything else. Last of the Red Hot Tabletop Clockers, which, by the way, the first time I've heard that said, I was dying laughing.
I was gonna say, it's like, wait, which Bat Duck episode are we talking about? And then you said, oh, that's actually the Paul Dini written one that introduced me to Zatanna. Full circle, ladies and gentlemen.
Ta-da! Time travel.
Shut up, Professor Hulk.
All right, we are running at about an hour now, so I'm going to give you the last word on Sabrina, and then the further last word on any burning desires or any other characters you want to talk about or plot lines.
Again, you're right. Sabrina does get the probably the least amount of character growth in the whole season, but there was a lot that they had to establish and a lot they had to build up with her character. So I am actually willing to let her character growth take a step back because they had so much else they had to establish with her. I think if they had tried to give her more of an arc, it probably would have felt a little overwhelmed.
Okay. Here, I'll get you started. Harvey and Roz, go.
That did take me for a loop a little bit. I really love how they handled Roz's blindness. We knew that was coming from season 1, and it's no less tragic that moment she's sitting on the bench, she looks up and she's gone blind. Just that moment, and it's done.
And then Sabrina cures her, ripping any of the dramatic tension and, whatever buildup there was to her blindness, killing it dead. And I don't know what sacrifice or what they got out of this. In other words, so she cures her blindness, and then there's no cost. It's just like, well, that was a thing that happened. Thanks, Jesus.
Well, again, it was part of her enacting the perversions of the acts of Jesus, healing the blind.
Yes, it adds to that narrative. It doesn't do anything other than give Harvey and Roz a nice moment, a nice, they get to be together and there's no cost to their relationship and no tension and everything is fine and okay, cool.
Would you prefer that maybe there was 1 or 2 more episodes where she had to deal with her blindness?
No, I would prefer if the cost of her blindness was something else. The cost of her sight and being touched by magic caused another problem.
She still has her, what are they called? The cunning?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember us talking about that last.
You know what? Lose the cunning. You may have sight, but you no longer have the cunning. I'm fine with it.
Maybe kick the cunning into overdrive that she can't control it. She starts having trouble deciphering, wait, am I seeing this in the now or am I seeing this in my sight?
Either way, the narrative structure, either things have tension and cost, or they're not really meaningful to the story. They're just things that happen. Sabrina performed a perverted miracle. And then the next day, it's like, it's just, there's not, you know what I mean? There's nothing to it. And I feel like the danger of the show is turning the mortals into also-ran characters. You want them to be dynamic and interesting and have stuff going on. And they robbed one of the characters of that.
I'll give you that. Although I do kind of feel that Roz's cunning is going to be quite useful when they start their descent into hell.
I'm looking forward to season 3 and seeing where they go with that.
Yeah, no, I definitely am interested in continuing this. I'll be really excited when season 3 comes out.
Okay. Anything else? Anything else you want to talk about? I think we covered the ones that were on my mind, the ones that I thought were interesting. I mean, just a quick kind of recap of some other stuff that happens. You have the bit with Hilda and the owner of the bookstore,
Dr. Cerberus.
Yeah, I like Hilda. It was a nice moment. Didn't really mean more to me than that. I actually prefer Hilda this season. Hilda seemed too much like a Shrieking Violet in the first season. This season, I feel like she was, you see her power. She kills the one teacher who's bullying Zelda. She came across as more than just, witchy Julia Child. And I preferred her this. I preferred the strength of the character portrayed in this season as opposed to what they did with her, where I felt like she was being bullied by her sister in the first season.
I didn't mind the addition of Dr. Cerberus. If nothing else, I think it gives us a little bit more, for lack of better terms, more scenery, more sets. Now we can spend more time in the bookstore and everything, so we'll have more characters interacting there. It doesn't confine the action solely either to the Spellman house, to the high school, or to the magic school.
Yeah, I was fine with it. Yeah,
and I did like the actor. I don't know why, but I just really liked. I love how cute he was when he's trying to explain the whole possession thing that he's got going on, and Hilda's just like, yep, okay, you're acting like this is something I haven't heard before. That was just so adorable.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, there were things that that brought a smile to my face. I liked them, but I didn't. They did not move me deeply. One way or the other. I did not have a Professor Hulk moment, or woohoo! Sabrina's killing angels. Rock on! Love that scene. Love that episode.
I have to admit, I am really hoping we get more of the angels coming down to fight thing. I just love this idea. This idea that since these are Satan worshippers, we have to make the emblems of Christianity the bad guys. There is no way around it. And right. I'm really hoping we see more of that just because it is so freaking hilarious.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I am in no way a deeply religious person, nor do I find dramatization of religion, good, bad, or indifferent, to be particularly offensive. Some people do, but they're not watching Sabrina the Teenage Witch on Netflix. They're watching Bonding! No, I'm just kidding.
You mean Chilling Adventures of Sabrina?
What I say? What I say?
You said You said Sabrina the Teenage Witch. That's technically the Melissa Joan Hart series.
Oh, you know what I meant. We were talking about Endgame. No, and so the Scarlet Witch says, "Throw me over the edge. I've been bad." No, that's a joke.
No,
that's a joke. We couldn't get the names right on that show.
No, I've watched. No, going on what I was saying earlier, I've watched too many seasons of Supernatural to get offended at the idea of angels being bad guys. If you haven't watched that, there is a lot of really horrible angels on that series that you just can't wait to see them get stuck with an angel blade to just blow up.
All right, so let's conclude here. Any expectations for season 3? The lead-in was we're going to go to hell to get Nick Scratch back, and that's fine. Lilith has become the king of hell, the queen of hell. The church. She's
resurrected Miss Wardwell.
She resurrected Miss Wardwell. And then I think Zelda declared herself high priestess and decided it wasn't necessarily a declaration, but sort of a resignation. I guess we're the Church of Lilith now.
Well, she is, for lack of a better word. I mean, again, majority of the coven was killed. There's very few left. And she is probably the only one who's really in power to do anything about it. Mm-hmm. And yeah, she's like, and I do love it. It's like, it's not a case of, well, girl power, let's be Church of Lilith. It's like, well, we can't really worship the Dark Lord anymore. Now, can we? Right. That was kind of funny how they came to that.
So, expectations, go.
Well, as I mentioned before, I really am hoping we get to see them go get the Spear of Longinus. Reports have said that they're going to start season 3 really right off the bat with them getting ready to go to hell. We're not going to beat around the bush with this. I do want to see them free Nick Scratch. I really like the actor. This is not just me being a hormonal woman admitting that the actor is hot, because he is.
I think you're right. I have heard that in the first 15 minutes of season 3, they all go into hell. They what they do is they surprise Satan, and one jumps on the back, and the other one on an arm, and the other one on the other arm, and then another character chops off Satan's hand.
Do I even have to say spoilers?
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm talking about Sabrina.
Did you see the article about the Domino's employee who beat up the fellow Domino's employee because he mentioned the end of the movie?
I have no clue what you're talking about. And then, from what I understand, after that, Sabrina just takes off until the end of the series. Really weird thing.
Are you done?
No, but we'll take a slight pause in my stupidity for now.
Eddie, I think we need to be saved by your squeaky toy again.
All right, well, we'll be back to talk about Sabrina when season part, whatever you want to call it, 3 debuts. If you enjoyed hearing myself and Alexis kick around the old dramatic football, well, there's more where that came from. We're going to be back here again next Thursday to talk She-Ra Season 2, speaking of girl power. So
I got to go that this weekend.
You going to what?
I got to go binge that this weekend.
Yeah, I'm taking my family. There's a miniature golf course that's closing. You know, it's one of the staples of entertainment in this neck of the woods. And you know, many years of providing family entertainment, and they've decided that the cost of keeping the miniature golf course open has become too great, and so they're closing it down. So I figured, let me take the kids and my wife to go do it one last time. And my son's never been miniature golfing, so I thought, okay, we'll go out, we'll go do that, and we'll probably get ice cream after. And I bring this all up to say what I really wanted to do was come home from work and binge Cobra Kai, because I haven't watched that yet. We're talking about that next week as well. So I got to somehow fit in to not Mother's Day weekend. I got to somehow fit in this weekend binging Cobra Kai, binging She-Ra, free comic book day, Canelo versus Daniel Jacobs, a Kentucky Derby party, taking my daughter to go see Endgame.
And don't forget about Star Wars Day.
Yes, may the 4th be with you, nerds.
And all also with you. I told you I was raised Episcopalian.
All right, I understand you're having a sale on Uwe Boll jewelry. Tell them about it.
Oh, sweet, merciful Satan.
Sarcasm is my middle name.
Those of you who weren't listening, we just did before this show a trailer reaction to Sonic the Hedgehog's nightmare-inducing visuals, which got us started us talking about video game movies on the whole, and how the bar is set at either Rampage at 52% on Rotten Tomatoes or Pokemon The Power of Us at 60% on Rotten Tomatoes. To which somebody mentioned about Uwe Boll, who has directed majority of the live-action video game adaptations that came on the list. And now Mr. Radulich here wants to do an Uwe Boll marathon, and I say there's not enough drugs in the world to make me sit through that.
They look spectacular. All right, and all. If we could be serious for just a moment, I hear you have.
Why start now?
I understand you have jewelry to sell. I also understand you need a babysitter. Remember the cat dresses? Never mind. You're the Looney Tunes person. You're supposed to pick up what I'm putting down here. I understand you need a babysitter. Yes. I know the episode. You're a gambling woman. What side do you take, heads or tails?
You beast, you cannibal. How could you? Mouse or no mouse, he's still your son. A fine thing. I've become the father of a breakfast. I told you I couldn't say anything I wrote.
Very good. All right, I'm gonna shut up now.
Really? You're gonna start? Okay. Honeysuckle Rose Creations, the intersection of geek and chic, Yes, as Mark mentioned, we are doing a month-long sale on our Etsy and Handmade at Amazon stores. 15% off everything in the stores. That includes our wire-wrapped dice, our Scrabble Tile charm bracelets, our earrings made of Monopoly and Clue pieces, and much, much more. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Again, Honeysuckle Rose Creations, the intersection of geek and chic. Stores currently open on Etsy and Handmade at Amazon.
All right. This week it was a loaded week here. We didn't do a Metal Hammer of Doom, but we doubled up on the TV parties. Last night, myself and Jesse discussed the Orville. Prior to that, we had a roundtable discussion of Avengers Endgame, and prior to that, source material, we discussed the book Avengers Forever and Ever and Ever. Next week, we've got a pair of TV parties, as I said before, Cobra Kai and She-Ra. 2 different episodes, 2 different hosts. Once again, Jesse and Alexis. And in the meantime, in between time, we're doing Secret Invasion on source material. And the Metal Hammer of Doom returns triumphantly with Battle Beast. And I will have gotten the results of my biopsy that day. So that's either going to be a really great episode or a really depressing one. We'll see what happens.
Either way, we're breaking out the margaritas.
The following week, we're doing Civil War 2, because we all know how much comic book fans love that series. Myself, Alexis Hana, and a protesting Robert Winfrey will be discussing Detective Pikachu on Damn You Hollywood.
I still want to know why the hell we're going to have him on the show when you know he's just going to be a trolling asshole.
Have you not heard the show before? On Wednesday, we are discussing the new Whitesnake album, Flesh and Blood, and then finally, right after I get done watching a tearful Big Bang Theory, we're going to do On Trial, as requested by Andrew Graham from our Canadian office, The Three Musketeers. Well, also, assuming I'm home from the Kentucky Derby party, we'll be doing a boxing commentary for Canelo versus Daniel Jacobs, which he's already won 240-0.
Wait, which Three Musketeers movie?
This one is the one with Kiefer Sutherland.
Okay, I was going to say, are we talking about the one with Chris O'Donnell, or are we talking about the one with Mila Jovovich?
This is the one with Oliver Platt.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I don't know why he recommended it, but he did. So, I know I take requests. I'm a weird DJ like that. All right, I want to thank Alexis Hana for hanging out with me tonight and kicking the ball around. We hope you've enjoyed this week's podcast, and we hope more to offend you in the near future.
I just heard the all-new Adventure Bay with Pop-Up Adventures is opening at Jungle Island.
That's great. Let's go this weekend. I heard they have a new pop-up zip line and a rock climbing wall at the all-new Jungle Island Adventure Bay.
Wow, Dad, that would be great. My friends went last week and they had so much fun at the escape room attraction. And they saw the twin orangutans too.
Of course. Your mom and I grew up loving Jungle Island and the 300 vibrant birds that made Jungle Island famous. And you can take a ride on the Jungle Island Superflight. I know your mom wants to try it too.
Visit jungleisland.com to plan your next adventure.
Daddy, I just heard the all-new Adventure Bay with Pop-Up Adventures is opening at Jungle Island.
That's great. Let's go this weekend. I heard they have a new pop-up zip line and a rock climbing wall at the all-new Jungle Island Adventure Bay.
Wow, Dad, that would be great. My friends went last week and they had so much fun at the escape room attraction. And they saw the twin orangutans too.
Of course. Your mom and I grew up loving Jungle Island and the 300 vibrant birds that made Jungle Island famous. And you can take a ride on the Jungle Island Superflight. I know your mom wants to try it too.
Visit jungleisland.com to plan your next adventure.